Hey everybody, it's Chris Kirkpatrick and welcome back to Life 180. And for this video, I'm going to be talking about something I normally don't get into, which is the state of the political environment, but also the state of kind of the economic environment. You know, I steer away from these topics typically in my videos, even though I talk about overall kind of theoretical strategy, and sometimes I share some of the specific things that I do in my life and that we've done with clients from a building business perspective, helping entrepreneurs build their businesses, or the financial strategy we coach entrepreneurs through. I also own a career coaching company. I've got my first book that I launched earlier this year during the coronavirus, which is called Executive Job Search Secrets. I got a bunch of copies of those. But the thing that I want to talk about in this video is kind of what's going on in the world right now. Now, I'm going to get right to it here. I am a huge believer that around the end of 2021 to the early middle stages of 2022, there's going to be a massive financial correction. I've been doing a lot of research. It's what I do to figure out why I think that's going to happen. I want to give a full caveat to this saying, we have no idea what's going to happen in the world. This could all change next week if Biden decides to launch more stimulus packages and allows things to happen. But I want to give some statistics, and ultimately what I want to do is give you action steps to help you understand what you need to do to take advantage of what's going on. I'm a big believer that during these times of transition, during these times of crisis, is when there's the most opportunity to become wealthy and to create wealth, right? So it doesn't matter kind of where you are right now. What you do over the next year is going to have a massive impact in your ability to kind of create that life that you want to create. The strategies that you use to get there are going to be absolutely imperative. You can either struggle through this transition or you can thrive through it, and that's what I want to talk about. Now, first and foremost, before I get into how to thrive through it, let's talk about why I believe this crash is going to happen. And I think it's not going to be a subtle crash. I think there are certain areas in the country, I think Arizona, for instance, where I live, I feel blessed that I live here. I think we're going to be a little insulated. Not that we're not going to feel it, because I think everywhere is going to feel a correction. But places like Arizona, places like Utah, like Idaho, are not feeling it, are not going to feel it as much, because there's so many people leaving California, so many people that are getting out of there because of the current environment with business and taxation and politics and all those things, that they're selling while it's high, and they're moving to other areas, and they're bringing all their California money to Arizona, which is a great thing for us. It's driving our prices up, and it's doing a lot of good things. But I digress. So here's what's going on. The CARES Act. I've done a lot of videos on the CARES Act and the ability to put your auto loan in forbearance, the ability to put your mortgage in forbearance for your credit cards, for student loans, all these different things, to be able to access your 401k and not have to pay the 10% penalty, and be able to spread the taxable consequences of accessing your 401k or IRA over a 3-year period, right? Like all these different things. Okay, now let's talk about what in the world is going on right now. So there's a couple things that are happening. I want you to think about some statistics. Right now, 5% of auto loans are 90 days past due. Doesn't sound like a big number. It's a pretty big number. I actually spoke to a guy who owns a repossession company, kind of like one of those guys you would see on TV. He owns one of the massive repossession companies here in Phoenix and San Diego. And he says that right now, repossessions, as of January 2021, repossessions are up about 400% for automobiles. That's a scary number. It's only going to get worse. Don't forget, with forbearances on mortgages, you have a 12-month window. With automobiles, typically they only gave you about a 3-month window. They weren't really obligated to give you any more than that. A lot of lenders are working with people, but don't forget, they're not going to work with you that much on these assets that are depreciating, that you're probably continuing to drive. They eventually have to protect that asset that's guaranteeing the loan, right? So that's where they're going to just collect it and come in, pick it up on a tow truck and pull it away from you. That's what's going to happen. That's going to be increasing more and more and more and more. I saw a statistic actually that says for every 2.1 cars sold right now, 1 car is being foreclosed on, or is being repossessed. That's the word I'm looking for. So that's something to think about. Forbearance on your mortgage, okay? Now, if you've watched any of my videos, I'm a big believer that people should be taking advantage of forbearance on their mortgages if you do it for the right reasons. Remember, this is a stated, if you are in economic hardship, you can put your mortgage into forbearance. Now, I believe everybody's in economic hardship right now because there's so much uncertainty in the world. However, I believe that too many people are taking advantage of this and not doing smart things with their money. They're not being responsible or diligent with the decisions they're making around what they're doing with the forbearance money. Now, obviously, there are a lot of people who are in forbearance who lost their job, who have a reduction in income. The $600 unemployment weekly bonus got eliminated, right? So if that's the case, now a lot of people aren't able to afford it. If you can't afford your mortgage, you get to put in a forbearance. Obviously, you have to do that. That's real hardship. However, there's a lot of people that are in situations where they're in high toxic credit card debt. They have high toxic interest rates on their auto loans. They have work that needs to be done around their house. Maybe you need a new air conditioner if you're here in Arizona. We bought our house, a great place that we bought on the golf course here, but it's 20 years old and the air conditioning unit was original with the house. So when we got this house, we had to replace it. Unfortunately, it was right before COVID happened. Otherwise, we could have, kind of finagled some things for that. But that's an example of somebody who would be able to take a forbearance and put it into their house to improve the value and overall well-being of the property, right? So that's something to think about. But I want to throw some statistics at you about the forbearance that I think are absolutely relevant. In May, there were 4.3 million mortgages that went into forbearance. Now, what I'm having a hard time, I'm finding a widespread amount of numbers available as far as what percentage of mortgages are in forbearance right now. But the number that I did find on Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac site that I think is pretty ironclad is that right now there's been about $565 billion of unpaid principal due to forbearance. Now, don't forget, that's just principal. If you know how amortized mortgages work, you understand that the first year of your mortgage, even the first several years of your mortgage, first 4, 5, 6 years of your mortgage, the bulk of your payment is going towards interest, not principal. So when it's $565 billion of unpaid principal, that means it's probably 2 to 3 times that in total amount of payments missed. So that means right now we're looking at $1 to $1.5 trillion of payments that are in forbearance. Now, according to the CARES Act, what can happen is they can take those payments that they didn't have to pay and they can lump it on. An option is to either pay it off or you can lump it on, which nobody's gonna pay it off. Most people are gonna lump it onto the back of their 30-year mortgage or 15-year mortgage, whatever they have for a mortgage, they're gonna put it right on the end of it. So if that's the case, it's gonna be a balloon payment, typically right at the end of that mortgage when the 30 years is up, right? So think about it from this perspective. We have a situation where there's let's just say $1.5 trillion because it's probably getting higher and higher. That was data as of December. So if the numbers are getting bigger and bigger, people are owing that money. Student loan payment deferment ends. There's 42 million people who are in student loan payment deferment. That ends right now, January 31st, 2021. Now, the one thing I want to say to this is we don't know what's going to happen. Biden is coming into office at the time I'm filming this. It's the 19th of January right now. He's coming into office. Trump hands over the reins tomorrow, I believe. When he does that, Biden can do a lot of things. He can extend the ability for the forbearance for student loans. He can print more money. He can extend the forbearance for mortgages. He can do a lot of different things. We don't know what kind of governmental regulations are going to come in to help people so they can kick the can down the road. But what I do know is no matter what they do, there's no getting out of this. You got to take your medicine. You don't get through a crisis. You don't get through any kind of financial kind of crisis environment like we're in right now without having to deal with the consequences of that. You're not going to get through something like this and feel no pain. At this point in time, we felt essentially no pain. Sure, it's kind of sucked that we've all been home, that we've been on lockdown a lot of times. My kids keep going to school. Somebody in their class gets COVID. They shut school down. They have to homeschool for 2 weeks. They go through testing. They go back to school. 3 weeks later, a kid gets COVID. They come home again. It's this cycle. So that our way of living has been thrown upside down. It's been super inconvenient. And Some of it's been great that we get to spend more time with our family. We get to be a bit more present. A lot more people are working from home. Businesses are realizing the ability to use technology to make more things efficient. We've kind of been thrust about 5 years into the future, in my opinion, as far as technology. There's a lot of good things that have come out of this if you want to look at it from that angle. However, the challenge with what we're dealing with right now is, from a financial perspective, you got all these payments that are just being deferred. And at the end of the day, we have private companies that own these mortgages and they're guaranteed by the government. That's how they're able to defer them and create these regulations that defer them. However, $1.5 trillion of unpaid payments are going to be balloon payments that are lumped onto the back. All at the same time, the stock market's going high. The real estate market is going absolutely crazy. The average home in Arizona is getting 17 offers put in to it. Houses are being bought sight unseen. My wife, literally, she's a real estate agent. She's literally sold a house to a guy from Maryland, sight unseen, which is completely crazy to me that this is happening. And he overbid on the property by about 10% of what the asking price was. That is definition of behavior during a bubble. I don't care. Like it's too emotionally driven. When you look at the statistics of it and the math, let's talk about it. The forbearance of the mortgages. Remember, I said the repossessions of automobiles were up 400%. Forbearances of mortgages right now are literally in this position where they have 12 months. Auto loans got 3 months. Mortgages got 12 months. That's typically coming up. It started in March of 2020, but typically most people didn't take advantage of it until about April or May. So let's say May is the date where most people took advantage of the forbearance. I mean, June was the peak, I think, of when people were actually doing it. So let's just say May is the day. If May is the day, is the month where the 12-month kind of clock starts, that means May of 2021, people and their forbearance benefits are going to run out. So there's a lot of things that go with that. That even if people are able to pay their mortgage and withstand kind of what's going on, that's still money that's not going to be being spent in the economy. That's money that's not going to be being pumped into buying flat screen TVs, into buying cars, into buying stocks, into investing, into things like that. So that's going to slow the economy down. On top of it, I do believe we're going to have a lot of people that are not able to keep up with their mortgage because of the current state of the economy. People were over their heads. I think there's going to be a wave of people that want to get out of their houses, that are going to kind of see the writing on the wall. And there's going to be this wave of people that are just kind of realizing in May that something needs to happen. Unfortunately, we've seen this happen before. So when the forbearance stops, you're going to have a lot of people that start not being able to make their payments, right? So about 90 days after that, about 3 months, is when banks typically starting the foreclosure process on those homeowners, right? So if May, June, July, August. So by August, you're looking at the fact that foreclosure proceedings will start. That's when the pressure is going to kind of start to tick up. That's when you're going to start seeing things in the news about what's going on, about this crisis, this looming crisis. You may even see some stuff ahead of that because I think people will become more and more aware of what's going on. It'll become more transparent to the economy in general. But August is going to be when we start to really see it. And then by the time they start those proceedings, it's about 60 days before you're really going to feel it. So August, September, October. And by November, you're going to start to really feel, I think that's when there's the highest likelihood where a real crash in real estate, a real crash in the economy, and everything is going to happen, because you can't just get through this and keep deferring and deferring and deferring. Now, what I will say is right now, Biden comes into office tomorrow. He could put a regulation in that says you can kick payments out. You could defer instead of till May, you could defer till August. Whatever he does, yes, we can stretch it out. But at the end of the day, you can only stretch it out so far. So here's what I would say to people is, we're not going to get out of this unscathed. We're not going to get through this crisis without a problem, right? If you have not watched my video yet on the Life 180 Pyramid, I filmed that video several times. So I've got a couple different iterations and productions of it over the past 4 years, 5 years. However, what I talk about in that video is absolutely the coaching that you need to understand. It talks about exactly what we're going through right now, and when wealthy people get wealthy, how you create wealth. There is more opportunity in today's environment than there ever has been if you structure your financial life in accordance, right? Listen, when that financial crisis happens, I have a question for you. Are you going to be liquid? Are you going to have accessible money, enough money so you're protected in case you have an emergency, i.e. you need to make sure you can pay the bills around you in your house and your home, like your mortgage, your car payment, put food on the table, pay your electricity and your gas bill and your internet and all the things that you have going on. Are you going to be able to do that without being paranoid if you lose your job because the economy tanks? Are you going to have enough money in an account to be able to access for opportunity should that opportunity arise? And guess what? When's the best time to make money? When most other people are struggling. That's just a fact. I'm not saying to try to take advantage intentionally of other people who are struggling. Warren Buffett said it best. The best time to make money is when there's blood on the streets. Guess what? There's going to be a ton of blood on the streets, metaphorically speaking, hopefully not literally, quite frankly, in the times that we're living in right now, right? So what I want to say is you need to make sure that you're doing the responsible things. You're taking advantage of all the programs to position yourself to leverage it, that you're putting that money into an account that's liquid, that's accessible, that has tax advantages, all these different things. If you haven't looked at the and asset with Caleb, that may or may not be the right thing for you right now, simply, quite frankly, because there's a lot going on in the world, and the liquidity that you may have from it or need from it in the first year may or may not be there. It depends on how much you can dump in and what the cash flow looks like. There's a lot of variables. It could be an amazing tool if you're already sitting on cash. But for those of you who are not sitting on cash, it's probably not good for you to do that right now. You would want to just put your money in a bank account, save it, just have access to it, do something of that nature. When it happens, when things start to go downhill, once again, I don't see Biden being able to push it out any more than an extra 6 months or so. That's why I said anywhere between November 2021 and like spring 2022. When that happens, asset prices are going to drop, and not just drop slowly. It's going to be like 2008 again. It's going to be crazy. And there's going to be a ton of opportunity, because what happens is for the people who don't have their lives structured properly, they're going to see their stock values go down. The market's going to crash. The real estate market's going to crash. There's going to be all these people who are having to make bad financial decisions just to survive. So if you can be in a position where you are able to kind of be there with money, and you're protected, so you don't have to worry about survival, so you can worry about actually taking advantage of opportunity. Now you're going to be able to take advantage of that opportunity, and you can buy when it's super low so you can take advantage and ride it up high. And that's where you make your money in the world right now. So listen, I know this is getting a little long-winded. I apologize if it's too much, but this is, I think, one of the most important things that we have going on right now. You need to make sure that you're prepared for the crisis that is absolutely coming. I do believe there's an opportunity in real estate right now, even in this environment. I really, truly do. If you buy in the right markets and if you buy for the right reasons. Remember, one of the things that, if you haven't seen any of the videos I've done with Mike Wolf, one of the things that you need to understand, you need to look at real estate like, is you invest in real estate for cash flow. You don't worry about what your net worth is in accordance to real estate. It's all about the cash flow. And when this crisis happens, as long as that property is cash flowing and has a cap rate that's healthy and that you're happy with, don't worry about the property going down in value. Just take advantage of that. Use the cash flow when times are tough to help get you through. And then because you have that cash flow and nobody else does, that'll still open you up to be able to take advantage of other opportunity when it happens. So I hope that makes sense. I'm going to do some more videos on this. If you haven't already, make sure you like and subscribe. Click the like button on this. Comment if you have any questions about what's going on, you want me to do any research. I've probably already done it. Make a comment. I will comment on anything. I'll make content for any of this specifically. I'm really feeling called to help entrepreneurs build their business this year, to help people get prepared for ultimately what's coming. Because listen, nobody really knows. I'm not gonna sit here and tell you I know 100% what's happening, because nobody does. There's too many variables that nobody it has transparency into, probably aside from the president, and even he probably doesn't even have it, quite frankly. So all I can do is say, be diligent, be intentional, go out, live intentionally for excellence. That's what Life 180 is all about. So go out there, crush it, have a blessed, inspirational day. I hope you found value in this. I'll see you on the next video.